Hi there, my name's Sarah, and this will be a quick tutorial to show you how I set up my sketch layers in Clip Studio Paint. I'll also go into a little more detail about a really convenient feature, layer colors. To get started, go to the File menu and choose New. The size doesn't really matter, but I like to work on a nice big canvas at 300 dpi in case I want to print my art later. Click OK. Take a look at the layer palette. You start off with a white paper layer as your background and an empty raster layer. I'll rename this layer to Sketch. I like to sketch in light blue. It's a holdover from how I and a lot of other artists draw with pencil and paper. You can change the color you're drawing with, of course, but there's an easier and more consistent way. Just turn on the layer color. You can turn on the layer color by clicking here on the Layer Property palette, or the shortcut here on the Layer panel. They should be on your default layout, but if you don't see one or both of these panels, go to the Window menu and click Layer and Layer Property, respectively. The default layer color is already light blue, so when you draw on the layer now, anything drawn in black appears in that blue instead. Something else I like to do is click here to change my sketch layer into a draft layer. Notice the blue bar and pencil icon that indicate a draft layer. This is completely optional, but it's a nice way to differentiate your sketches and working layers. Plus, you have the option to hide draft layers when you export your image, just in case you forgot to turn the layers off. To really imitate pencil and paper, I like to sketch with a pencil tool. Click on the pencil tool. You'll see different options than I have here since I've downloaded and customized some pencil subtools, but the default pencil at the top is what we'll be using for this example. The brush size will depend on the size of your canvas. In my case, a size of 50 works great. And with that, it's time to draw. While it is possible to make art with a mouse, I highly recommend getting yourself a drawing tablet. There are some wonderful, inexpensive options out there these days. A tablet with pressure sensitivity allows you to draw smooth lines that taper naturally. When your sketch is finished, you can use it as a guide to either ink or paint over. In this case, I'm going with line work. Now that I'm done with the sketch, I'll drop the opacity on that layer down a bit to make it easy to see the lines I'm going to draw over it. Create a new layer. For more organic forms like this, I like to ink on a raster layer, so I'll click this button. Some people prefer a vector layer, this button, for all their inking, but I tend to use those for inorganic forms and cartoony images myself. It's up to you. Finally, I'll switch to the pen tool and select the G Pen subtool to draw my line art. I'm only going to show my sketching and inking process in this video, but I'll have a time-lapse of the whole piece up later. There are a few other tips I'd like to share about the layer color feature. Here, I've hidden my line work and put my sketch back to 100% opacity. Say you don't care for light blue, or you want a different shade. Simply click the layer color swatch and choose an alternate color. Another option is to select a drawing color on your color wheel here, and then use the paint bucket icon to transfer it to the layer color here. You can also change the layer color by clicking this drop-down and selecting Layer Color. And of course, you can toggle the layer color off by clicking the Layer Color button again. If you turn it back on, it remembers the color you previously chose. I'm sure you noticed the subcolor here too. If your drawing is all black, it doesn't appear to do anything. The main layer color affects dark tones while the subcolor affects light tones. The best way to see this is with a gradient. When I turn on the layer color, the darker values shift to blue while the lighter ones remain white. However, if I change the subcolor to green, the lighter tones go green, while the gray areas are a mix of the two. It doesn't matter what color the layer was before, only the brightness. Changing the layer colors to black and white will result in a grayscale image. Brown and tan will give you a quick sepia tone effect. If you mainly use the layer color for sketching, like I do, you may have a color preference. For instance, I like to use a slightly less vivid blue, and I put it on both the layer color and subcolor so I don't have to worry about changing my pencil color to black every time. Click the Palette menu, and select Save as Default. check the box next to Layer Color. Note that this will only affect raster layers. You can save separate defaults for vector layers, text layers, and so on. Click OK. These will now be the default layer colors for every raster layer you create in the future. One other useful thing to know is that you can apply a layer color to an entire folder. A great use case for this is if you're working on an animation and want to set up an animation folder for all your rough sketches. Simply select the folder and click Layer Color. Now, the layer color is applied to every layer in that folder. If you'd like to learn more about animation in CSP, I made a whole beginner video on that, link in the description. That's everything I wanted to cover about setting up a sketch layer and using the layer color feature in Clip Studio Paint. As always, tag me at Ms.RedNebula on Twitter and Instagram, or my new Mastodon account, and show me your art. See you soon! A big thank you to all of my patrons, with a special shout out to Nova Tier patron Joe C. Phipps. Check out my Patreon if you'd like to help support future content like this.